The espresso machine was fighting me again at midnight, its Italian guts spread across my workshop table like some caffeinated autopsy. I'd promised Elise I'd fix the damn thing before her book club meeting tomorrow, though I suspected her book club had about as much to do with literature as my marine engineering had to do with rocket science. "Come on, you temperamental piece of European garbage," I muttered, threading a new gasket into place. The machine had cost more than my monthly salary at the marina, but Elise insisted we needed it for entertaining. Everything in our house had to look perfect for her friends, her co-workers, her endless parade of social obligations that somehow never included me. My phone buzzed against the workbench. Elise's name lit up the screen, which was weird since she'd left 3 hours ago for her girls' night at Tasha's place. I almost ignored it, probably drunk dialing to complain about something I'd done wrong, but curiosity won. "Hello," I said, but got no response. Just background noise, laughter, the clink of glasses, a butt dial probably. I was about to hang up when I heard Elise's voice, crystal clear and venomous. "I swear Jack is so clueless. Did I tell you what he said about the promotion? He actually thinks I should be grateful for his support." Her laugh was sharp, cruel. Like fixing boat engines qualifies him to give career advice. My hand froze on the espresso machine. This wasn't a butt dial. This was a window into my wife's real thoughts. Tasha's voice joined in, loud and obnoxious as always. "Girl, you deserve so much better. Brent's been asking about you again, hasn't he?" Brent Pomeroy, Elise's boss at the logistics company. The guy who sailed his yacht past our house every weekend like some kind of maritime peacock. I'd met him exactly twice, both times leaving me with the impression that he'd never worked a day with his hands in his life. "Brent understands ambition," Elise said. "He gets that some people are meant for bigger things. Jack's sweet, but he's limited. He fixes things. That's all he'll ever do." Another voice chimed in, Mel from Elise's office. "You could have anyone, Elise. Why settle for a guy who comes home smelling like fish and diesel fuel?" The laughter that followed hit me like a punch to the gut. These weren't random cruel comments. This was a regular topic of conversation. My marriage, my career, my entire existence was their entertainment. "The worst part is how he tries to be romantic," Elise continued. "Last week he brought me flowers from the gas station. Gas station flowers. Can you imagine? Brent sends orchids to his wife from that boutique downtown. His wife who never appreciates them," Tasha added with a giggle. "Unlike someone we know?" The implication hung in the air like smoke. I felt my chest tighten, my hands shake slightly as I gripped the phone harder. "Speaking of appreciation," Mel said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, "are you still meeting him at the marina office after hours?" "Mel!" Elise's voice carried mock outrage, but she was laughing. "A lady doesn't tell." "But you're no lady," Tasha cackled. "You're a woman who knows what she wants, and what you want is definitely not fixing espresso machines in a garage at midnight." They all dissolved into laughter again. I stared at the phone, my reflection caught in its black screen. 42 years old, grease under my fingernails, wearing a t-shirt with holes in it. When had I become such a joke? "I should probably head home soon," Elise said. "Jack gets suspicious if I'm out too late. Not that he'd ever actually confront me about anything. He's too afraid of conflict." "Too afraid or too stupid?" Mel asked. "Both," Elise replied without hesitation. Something inside me snapped. Before I could stop myself, I was typing a text to Tasha's number, which I'd memorized from all the times she'd called our house at inappropriate hours. "Put her on speaker for me." I hit send and waited. The laughter on the call stopped abruptly. "Oh my God!" Tasha's voice was suddenly panicked. "Oh my God, Elise, look at this text." "What? Who's it from?" "Jack, your husband Jack. He says, 'Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit.'" I set the phone down carefully, my hands surprisingly steady now. The workshop felt different somehow, like the air pressure had changed. The espresso machine parts scattered across my workbench looked like evidence of something, not just a repair job, but a life spent fixing things that other people broke. 20 minutes later, I heard Elise's car in the driveway. She stumbled through the front door, her heels clicking unevenly on the hardwood floor. I could hear her moving around upstairs, probably trying to compose herself, figure out how much damage control she needed to do. I stayed in the workshop, methodically putting the espresso machine back together. The irony wasn't lost on me. Here I was, fixing something for the woman who'd just spent the evening explaining to her friends why I wasn't worth fixing. "Jack?" Her voice drifted down from the kitchen. "Jack, are you down there?" I didn't answer immediately. Let her wonder. Let her worry about what I'd heard, what I knew, what I might do about it. For the first time in years, I held the cards. "Jack?" More insistent now, with an edge of nervousness. "Down here," I called back, my voice perfectly calm. "Just finishing up your machine." Her footsteps on the stairs were hesitant. She appeared in the doorway wearing the black dress I'd complimented when she left, her makeup slightly smudged, her hair messed up from what I now realized probably wasn't just girls' night activities. "How was book club?" I asked, not looking up from the machine. "It was good. We discussed the new thriller everyone's reading." Her voice was too bright, too casual. "Thriller, huh? What's it about?" "Oh, the usual. Betrayal, secrets, people not being who they seem to be." I finally looked up at her. Sounds fascinating, very relatable. Something in my tone made her take a step back. "Jack, is everything okay? You seem different." "Different how?" "I don't know. Angry, maybe?" I stood up, wiping my hands on a shop rag. "Why would I be angry, Elise? Just because I spent the evening listening to my wife and her friends discuss what a pathetic loser I am? Just because I found out my marriage is apparently the comic relief at your little gatherings?" Her face went white. "Jack, I can explain." "Can you? Because I'd love to hear how you explain telling your friends that I'm limited, that I'm clueless, that I smell like fish and diesel fuel. Or maybe you'd like to explain what Mel meant about you meeting Brent at the marina office after hours." She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. For the first time in our 8-year marriage, Elise was speechless. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, my voice still eerily calm. "You're going to go upstairs and you're going to think very carefully about what you want to say to me. Because this conversation we're about to have, it's going to determine everything that comes next." She turned and fled upstairs. I heard the bedroom door slam, then the muffled sound of her voice, probably calling Tasha or Mel, trying to figure out how much I actually knew. I pulled out my phone and opened the voice recording app. Time to find out exactly how much I could learn when people thought I wasn't listening. The next morning, Elise was gone before I woke up. She'd left a note on the kitchen counter. "Working late tonight. We'll talk when I get home. E." No love, no XOXO, not even her usual smiley face. Just a cold, formal signature like I was her accountant. I made coffee with the newly repaired espresso machine and considered my options. The smart thing would be to confront her directly, maybe suggest marriage counseling, try to work through our problems like mature adults. But mature adults didn't spend their evenings mocking their spouses to their friends. Mature adults didn't have secret meetings with their bosses at marina offices. I called in sick to work, first time in 3 years, and started investigating. Elise kept her personal items in the bedroom, but she was careless about hiding things. In her gym bag, I found a second phone, an iPhone in a pink case that I'd never seen before. It was password protected, but Elise had always been predictable with passwords. I tried her birthday, our anniversary, her mother's maiden name. Nothing. Then I remembered what Tasha had said about Brent sending orchids. I tried orchid, and the phone unlocked. The text messages made my stomach turn. Months of conversations between Elise and Brent starting professional and gradually becoming personal, then intimate, then explicit. Photos I definitely didn't want to see. Plans for meetings, excuses for late nights, detailed discussions of how to avoid getting caught. But the worst part wasn't the affair itself. It was how they talked about me. Brent. Does he suspect anything? Elise. Jack? God number. He's completely oblivious. I could bring you home for dinner and he'd probably just ask if you wanted a beer. Brent. Lucky for us, he's not the suspicious type. Elise. He's not the anything type. That's the problem. I took screenshots of everything, uploaded them to a cloud storage account, then put the phone back exactly where I'd found it. Evidence secured. My next stop was the marina where I worked. Brent kept his yacht there, a 40-foot Sea Ray that probably cost more than my house. But more importantly, he rented office space in the marina's business complex for his logistics company's coastal operations. I found Hank Murphy in the engine repair bay, elbow deep in a diesel motor that had seen better decades. Hank and I had been friends since high school, and he was one of the few people who knew how to keep his mouth shut. You look like hell, he said without looking up from the engine. Elise finally figure out you've been watering down her expensive wine? Worse. She's been cheating on me with Brent Pomeroy. That got his attention. Hank straightened up, wiping his hands on his coveralls. The yacht club asshole? You're kidding. I wish I was. I gave him the abbreviated version of the previous night's phone call and the morning's discoveries. Hank listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker with each detail. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. So what are you going to do? He asked finally. I'm still figuring that out. But I could use some help. What kind of help? I looked around the marina, taking in the boats, the offices, the small community of people who worked and played here. The kind that requires someone who knows this place better than some rich outsider who thinks he can buy his way into anything. Hank grinned. It wasn't a pleasant expression. Now you're talking my language. We spent the next hour planning. Hank had access to the marina's security system, knew the schedules of all the office tenants, and had a master key for maintenance purposes. More importantly, he shared my opinion of entitled rich guys who thought working people were invisible. Brent's been treating the staff here like servants, Hank explained as we walked past the office complex, demanding special treatment, complaining about noise from the repair bays, acting like he owns the place. Most of us would love to see him taken down a peg. What about his boat? What about it? How attached do you think he is to that pristine paint job? Hank's grin widened. Probably pretty attached. Why? Just thinking out loud. That evening, I positioned myself at Murphy's Pub, the local dive bar that served as the unofficial headquarters for marina gossip. It was the kind of place Elise would never set foot in, which made it perfect for what I needed. Tasha was there, holding court at a corner table with Mel and two other women I recognized from Elise's social circle. They were already 3 drinks in and talking loudly enough for half the bar to hear. I still can't believe Jack heard everything, Tasha was saying. I mean, what are the odds? Maybe it's a sign, one of the other women suggested. Maybe Elise should just come clean, end the marriage, start fresh with Brent. Are you crazy? Mel laughed. Brent's not leaving his wife. He's got too much to lose. This is just a fling for him. Does Elise know that? Elise knows what she wants to know, Tasha said. Right now, she wants to believe she's found her Prince Charming. Reality can wait. I nursed my beer and listened, taking mental notes. These women knew exactly what was happening, had probably been encouraging it from the beginning. They weren't just witnesses to my humiliation. They were accomplices. My phone buzzed with a text from Elise. Still working. Don't wait up, I texted back. No problem. Take your time. Then I texted Hank. Meet me at the marina in an hour. Bring the fish guts from today's cleaning. Time to send a message that even Prince Charming would understand. Brent's Mercedes was parked in its usual spot near the marina office, gleaming under the security lights like a beacon of pretension. The car was his pride and joy, a vintage S-Class that he'd probably spent more maintaining than I made in 6 months. Hank and I approached from the repair bay side, staying in the shadows between the buildings. He carried a bucket that smelled like low tide and bad decisions. "You sure about this?" Hank whispered. "Security cameras might pick us up." "You said you could handle the cameras." "I can loop the footage, make it look like nothing happened. But if Brent reports this to the cops, let him." "What's he going to say?" "Officer, someone put fish guts in my car while I was having an affair in my office?" Hank chuckled. "Good point." The Mercedes was unlocked. Typical rich guy arrogance, assuming his expensive toys were safe in his expensive world. I popped the hood while Hank kept watch. "How much do you think this engine cost?" I asked, looking at the pristine German engineering. "More than my boat." "Shame if something happened to it." I didn't damage the engine, I wasn't a vandal, and I needed this to be more psychological than destructive. Instead, I focused on the interior. Fish guts under the seats, in the air vents, smeared on the steering wheel. The smell would be impossible to get out without professional cleaning, and it would take days for Brent to find all the sources. For the finishing touch, I used a piece of chalk to write THIEF on the windshield. Not permanent damage, but the message would be clear. "Think he'll get it?" Hank asked as we retreated to the shadows. "If he doesn't, I'll send a clearer message next time." We made it back to the repair bay just as lights came on in Brent's office. Through the window, I could see 2 figures silhouetted against the blinds, and one of them was definitely wearing Elise's favorite red jacket. "You want to stick around, see his reaction when he finds the car?" Hank offered. "No, I want him to find it alone, wonder who did it, wonder who else knows about his little office meetings. Let his imagination do the work." I drove home feeling better than I had in months. For years, I'd been the reliable guy, the one who fixed things quietly and never made waves. But reliable guys finish last, and quiet guys get walked on. Maybe it was time to make some noise. Elise came home at midnight, moving carefully through the house like she was afraid of waking me. I listened from the bedroom as she showered, probably washing off the evidence of her evening activities. When she finally came to bed, I pretended to be asleep. She lay there for a long time, staring at the ceiling, her breathing irregular. Guilty conscience, maybe, or just adrenaline from sneaking around. "Jack," she whispered. "Are you awake?" I didn't answer. "I know you're angry," she continued, "and I know we need to talk. But I need you to understand that things aren't always what they seem. Still nothing from me. I never meant for you to get hurt. That's the last thing I wanted." The lies came so easily to her. Even now, caught red-handed, she was trying to manipulate the situation, make herself the victim. I wondered how long she'd been practicing this speech, how many times she'd rehearsed these lines in Brent's office. My phone buzzed with a text message. In the dark, I could see it was from an unknown number. "Your wife's car was seen at the marina office complex tonight. Thought you should know." "A friend," I smiled in the darkness. Word was already spreading. In a small town like ours, secrets had a way of becoming public knowledge, especially when those secrets involved people behaving badly. I texted back, "Thanks for the heads up." Then I sent another message to Hank. Phase 1 complete. "Ready for Phase 2? His response came immediately. "Born ready." Elise shifted beside me, still restless. "Jack, I know you're not sleeping. Please, can we just talk about this?" I rolled over to face her, my expression neutral in the dim light from the window. "What's there to talk about, Elise?" "Us. Our marriage. What happens next?" "That depends." "On what?" "On whether you're ready to tell me the truth about Brent Pomeroy." She went very still. "What do you want to know?" "Everything." She was quiet for so long, I thought she might have fallen asleep. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, "I think I'm in love with him." There it was. The truth, finally, laid out between us like a blade. "And what about us?" I asked. "I don't know. I honestly don't know." I nodded, as if this was a reasonable response to 8 years of marriage. "Well, when you figure it out, let me know. I'll be in the guest room." I got up and gathered my pillow, leaving her alone with her uncertainty and her guilt. In the guest room, I lay awake planning my next move. Elise thought she was in love, but love built on lies and betrayal had a way of crumbling when exposed to daylight. Time to let in some light. The next morning brought the first signs that my message had been received. Hank called me at 7 a.m., barely able to contain his laughter. "You should have seen Brent's face when he found his car," he said. "Turned 3 different shades of purple. Spent 20 minutes screaming at the security guard, demanding to know who had access to the parking area." "Did he call the police?" "Nope. Hard to report vandalism when you can't explain why you were there in the first place. But he did have the car towed to a detailing place. Gonna cost him at least $500 to get that smell out. Money well spent." "Oh, and Jack? Mrs. Penn stopped by the marina this morning. Says she has some information you might find interesting. Mrs. Penn was our 70-something neighbor, a retired librarian with the observational skills of a private investigator and the discretion of a gossip columnist. If she had information, it was probably worth hearing. I found her in her garden, tending to roses that looked better than most people's wedding flowers. She looked up as I approached, her sharp blue eyes taking in my appearance with the kind of assessment that missed nothing. "You look tired, Jack," she said without preamble. "Marriage troubles keeping you up?" "What makes you think I have marriage troubles?" "Honey, I've been watching people for 75 years. Your wife's been coming and going at odd hours. There's been a fancy car in your driveway when your truck's not there, and yesterday I saw her sneaking some man through your back door while you were at work." My stomach dropped. "You saw what?" "Tall fellow, expensive clothes, drove that Mercedes that smells like fish now. They were in your house for about 2 hours yesterday afternoon." She pruned a rose with surgical precision. "I assume you didn't invite him over?" "No, I didn't." "Figured as much. You want to know what else I saw?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. "Your wife gave him a tour of the house, showed him your workshop, your office, even your bedroom. They were laughing about something, pointing at your tools, your books, like they were cataloging everything you owned. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. It was one thing to have an affair, another thing entirely to bring her lover into our home, into our private spaces, to mock my life in the place where I should have been safe. "Mrs. Penn, would you be willing to write down what you saw? Dates, times, details?" "Already did." She handed me a small notebook filled with her precise handwriting. "Been keeping track for about a month now. Figured you'd need evidence eventually." I flipped through the pages, seeing my marriage's destruction documented in careful detail. Dates, times, license plate numbers, descriptions of behavior. It was thorough, damning, and absolutely devastating. "Why?" I asked. "Because you're a good man, Jack, and good men deserve better than being made fools of in their own homes. Also because I never liked your wife. Too much makeup, not enough manners." I laughed, despite everything. "Thank you, Mrs. Pennsylvania, I owe you. You don't owe me anything. Just make sure you don't let them get away with it." I spent the rest of the morning at Murphy's pub, nursing a beer and planning my next move. The lunch crowd was starting to filter in when Mel arrived, looking frazzled and checking her phone constantly. She ordered a martini at noon and immediately called someone, speaking in the loud, careless way of people who think they're more important than they are. "No, I can't cover for her again," she was saying. "The regional manager is asking questions about why Elise has been out of the office so much. I've already told him she's been doing site visits, but he's starting to want documentation." A pause, then. "I don't care if Brent promised her a promotion. If this blows up, We're all going to look bad. Some of us actually need our jobs. Another pause, longer this time. Fine, but this is the last time, and she owes me, big time. Mel hung up and immediately dialed another number. Tasha? It's Mel. We have a problem. Elise is getting sloppy, and it's going to come back on all of us. We need to talk. I finished my beer and left, but not before making sure Mel saw me. Let her wonder how much I'd heard, how much I knew. Let her worry about whether her own job was safe if this whole thing came crashing down. That afternoon, I drove to Elise's office building. I'd been there exactly once before, for a Christmas party where I'd spent the evening listening to her co-workers make small talk about boats, while obviously wishing they were somewhere else. The building directory listed Brent's company on the 3rd floor. I took the elevator up, walked past the reception area, and found his office at the end of the hall. The door was closed, but I could hear voices inside, Elise's voice, and a man's voice that had to be Brent's. I couldn't make out words, but the tone was urgent, worried. Good. Let them worry. I walked back to the elevator, but not before stopping at the reception desk. "Excuse me," I said to the young woman behind the desk. "I'm supposed to meet my wife, Elise Mallory, but I think I might have the wrong floor." "She works for the logistics company?" "Oh, Mrs. Mallory. She's in Mr. Pomeroy's office right now. Should I let her know you're here?" "No, don't interrupt. I'll just wait." I sat in the reception area for 20 minutes, watching employees come and go, all of them glancing curiously at the guy in work clothes sitting among the business suits. When Elise finally emerged from Brent's office, she looked like she'd seen a ghost. "Jack? What are you doing here?" "Thought I'd surprise you. Take you to lunch, maybe." Brent appeared behind her, and I got my first good look at my wife's lover. He was exactly what I'd expected. Tall, well-dressed, with the kind of confident bearing that came from never having to worry about money. He looked at me like I was something unpleasant he'd stepped in. "You must be Jack," he said, extending a hand. "Brent Pomeroy, I've heard so much about you." I shook his hand, squeezing just a little harder than necessary. "All good things, I hope." "Of course." His smile was perfect, practiced, completely fake. "Well, I should let you get back to your meeting," I said. "Just wanted to see where my wife spends so much of her time these days." Elise's face went pale. "Jack, it's fine, honey. I understand how demanding work can be. All those late nights, weekend meetings, business trips, you're so dedicated." I kissed her cheek, nodded to Brent, and walked away, leaving them to wonder exactly what I meant. Exactly what I knew, exactly what I planned to do about it. The elevator doors closed on their worried faces, and I smiled. Phase 2 was complete. Time for Phase 3. The annual Harbor Days Festival was the biggest event in our small town, drawing thousands of visitors for 3 days of food vendors, live music, and maritime exhibitions. This year, it also provided the perfect stage for my final act. Elise had been walking on eggshells for a week since my surprise visit to her office. She'd tried several times to have the talk about our marriage, but I kept deflecting, telling her I needed time to process everything. The uncertainty was eating at her, which was exactly what I wanted. Brent, meanwhile, had become increasingly paranoid. According to Hank, he'd installed a security camera pointed at his car, changed his office locks, and started varying his schedule. The fish gut incident had rattled him more than I'd expected, but paranoia was just the appetizer. The main course was about to be served. Harbor Days kicked off on Friday morning with the traditional blessing of the fleet ceremony. As a marina employee, I was expected to participate, which gave me the perfect excuse to be everywhere and see everything. Brent was there, of course, playing the role of successful businessman and community supporter. He'd donated money for one of the festival banners and made sure everyone knew it. His yacht was part of the boat parade, decorated with flags and bunting like some kind of maritime peacock display. Elise arrived separately, claiming she was there to support local business on behalf of her company. She looked nervous, her eyes constantly scanning the crowd, probably looking for me. I waited until the opening ceremonies were in full swing, then made my move. The festival's information booth was staffed by volunteers from the local historical society, sweet elderly ladies who took their duties very seriously. I approached Mrs. Henderson, who'd been my third-grade teacher and still treated me like I was 8 years old. "Mrs. Henderson, I found this envelope in the parking lot," I said, handing her a manila envelope with "Lost and Found" written on it in large letters. "Someone dropped it. Looks important." "Oh my, thank you, Jack. I'll put it right here where people can see it." She placed the envelope prominently on the information table, right next to the festival programs and event schedules. The envelope contained copies of some of the more interesting text messages between Elise and Brent, nothing too explicit, but enough to make their relationship crystal clear to anyone who read them. I'd also included a few of Mrs. Penn's more detailed observations, typed up and presented as concerned citizen reports about inappropriate behavior at the marina. Within an hour, the envelope had been found by someone, and its contents were making the rounds. Small towns thrive on gossip, and this was premium material. I was manning the marina's information booth when Tasha stormed over, her face flushed with anger and embarrassment. "You bastard!" she hissed, keeping her voice low enough that the families browsing nearby couldn't hear. "How could you do this to her?" "Do what?" I asked innocently. "You know exactly what. Those papers, those messages. Everyone's talking about it." "I have no idea what you're referring to." "Bullshit. This has your fingerprints all over it." "Actually, it doesn't." I was very careful about that. She stared at me, probably trying to figure out if I was joking. "You're destroying her reputation, her career, everything she's worked for." "Funny, I thought she was doing that all by herself." "She made a mistake, Jack. People make mistakes. Mistakes are accidental. This was a choice. A series of choices, actually, made over several months, with the help of friends who encouraged her every step of the way." Tasha's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. "You can't prove I did anything wrong. Can I?" I pulled out my phone and showed her a photo I'd taken at Murphy's pub the night I'd overheard their conversation. "Interesting discussion you had with Mel about Elise's affair. Very supportive friends, encouraging her to take what she deserves and trade up from her boring husband. You were spying on us? I was having a beer in a public place. You were broadcasting your conversation to anyone within 50 feet. There's a difference." She turned and stalked away, probably to warn Elise and Mel that their involvement was about to become public knowledge. The afternoon brought the boat parade, and Brent's yacht was scheduled to be one of the featured vessels. I positioned myself near the judges' stand, where the local VIPs would be watching and commenting on each boat as it passed. Brent's yacht approached the reviewing stand right on schedule, looking like something out of a magazine with its perfect paint job and professional crew. Brent himself stood at the bow, waving to the crowd like he was running for mayor. That's when Hank's modifications kicked in. We'd spent hours the night before installing a small device in the yacht's bilge system. Nothing dangerous, just a little surprise that would activate when the boat reached a certain speed. As Brent's yacht passed the judge's stand, the device released its payload, a cloud of the most horrific smell imaginable, a mixture of rotten fish, skunk scent, and industrial-strength stink bomb. The wind carried the smell directly into the crowd of VIPs, sending them scrambling away from the waterfront with handkerchiefs pressed to their faces. Brent, still standing at the bow of his yacht, was directly in the path of his own stink cloud. The sight of him gagging and stumbling, his perfect hair disheveled and his expensive clothes reeking, was worth every hour of preparation. The crowd's reaction was even better, laughter, pointing, and more than a few people taking photos and videos. "What the hell happened to Pomeroy's boat?" someone shouted. "Smells like something died in there," another voice called out. Brent's yacht limped back to the marina, trailing its cloud of stench like a banner of shame. The boat parade continued, but everyone was still talking about the smell, the spectacle, the look on Brent's face when he realized what was happening. I found Elise in the crowd, standing near the food vendors, with a look of horror on her face. She'd seen everything, understood immediately that this wasn't an accident. "Enjoying the festival?" I asked, walking up beside her. "You did this," she said quietly. "Did what?" "All of it. The papers, the boat, everything." "That's a serious accusation. You have any proof?" She looked at me like she was seeing a stranger. "Who are you?" "This isn't the man I married." "You're right. The man you married was a pushover who let people walk all over him. Consider this my resignation from that position." "Jack, please. We can work this out. We can go to counseling, start over, fix this." "Fix what, exactly?" "Your affair, your lies, the fact that you brought your lover into our home to mock everything I've built?" Her face crumpled. "You know about that." "I know about all of it, Elise. Every lie, every secret meeting, every cruel joke you and your friends made at my expense. The only question now is what happens next. What do you want?" "I want you to understand that actions have consequences. I want you to realize that the people you hurt might not just roll over and take it. And I want you to know that this is just the beginning." I walked away, leaving her standing alone in the crowd, finally understanding that her perfect plan had fallen apart and that the man she'd dismissed as harmless was anything but. The festival continued around us, but the real entertainment was just getting started. The confrontation came on Sunday evening, after the festival crowds had gone home and the town had settled back into its usual quiet rhythm. Elise had spent the weekend in damage control mode, fielding calls from friends and co-workers who'd heard about the leaked messages and Brent's humiliating boat parade disaster. I was in my workshop, genuinely fixing something this time, a neighbor's lawnmower that had seen better decades, when I heard voices in the driveway. Through the window, I could see Elise, Brent, Tasha, and Mel approaching the house like some kind of intervention committee. This should be interesting. I met them at the front door, wiping my hands on a shop rag and putting on my most innocent expression. "Well, this is a surprise," I said. "To what do I owe the pleasure?" Brent stepped forward, trying to project authority, despite the fact that he still faintly smelled like the stink bomb from 2 days ago. "We need to talk, Jack. Man to man." "Sure. Come on in. Can I get anyone a beer? Coffee? Air freshener?" That last comment made Brent's jaw clench, but he followed me into the living room. The others trailed behind, looking like they'd rather be anywhere else. "Jack," Elise began, "we know you're angry, and we understand why, but this has gone too far." "Has it?" I'm not sure I follow. "The messages at the festival," Tasha said. "The boat incident. The rumors you've been spreading around town." "I haven't spread any rumors. I've just been living my life, same as always." "Bullshit," Brent snapped. "You've been sabotaging me, vandalizing my property, trying to destroy my reputation." "Your reputation?" I laughed. "Brent, you're having an affair with a married woman. You brought her into my house while I was at work. You've been lying to your wife, your business partners, and everyone else in town. I didn't destroy your reputation. You did that all by yourself." "This isn't about right and wrong," Mel interjected. "This is about being adults and handling our problems privately." "Privately? Like the way you all handled your private conversations about what a loser I am? Like the way Elise privately decided to cheat on me in our own home?" The room went quiet. Finally, Elise spoke up. "Jack, I know I hurt you. I know I made terrible choices. But if you keep doing this, you're going to hurt innocent people." "Innocent people? Like Brent's wife, who has no idea her husband is cheating on her? Like the people at your office who think you've been doing actual work during all those site visits?" "You don't understand the situation," Brent said. "There are business relationships at stake, professional reputations. Your business relationships aren't my problem. Your professional reputation, definitely isn't my problem. You should have thought about that before you decided to screw my wife. Brent's face turned red. Look, you blue-collar piece of trash. He didn't get to finish the sentence. I was across the room and in his face before he could blink, my hand wrapped around his expensive tie. Finish that thought, I said quietly. Please. I'd love to hear what you really think about people like me. Jack, don't, Elise pleaded. I let go of Brent's tie and stepped back, but kept my eyes locked on his. Here's what's going to happen. You're all going to leave my house. Elise, you're going to pack your things and find somewhere else to stay while we figure out the divorce details, and all of you are going to stop pretending you're the victims here. And if we don't? Tasha asked. I smiled. Well, let's see. Tasha, your husband doesn't know about that DUI you got last month, does he? The one Mel helped you cover up by lying to the police about where you were that night? Tasha went white. Mel, I wonder what your boss would say about you using company resources to help Elise fake her work reports. I have copies of some very interesting emails. Mel started to protest, but I held up a hand. Brent, I'm sure your wife would love to see the credit card statements showing all those expensive gifts you've been buying, the ones that definitely didn't end up at your house. You're bluffing, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Am I? Mrs. Penn has been very thorough in her observations. Amazing what a retired librarian can accomplish when she puts her mind to it. I pulled out my phone and showed them a photo of Brent's car in our driveway, timestamp clearly visible. This was taken the day you gave Elise a tour of our house. I have about 50 more just like it, documenting dates, times, and activities. I also have recordings of your phone conversations, copies of your text messages, and witness statements from multiple sources. So here's the deal, I continued. You all leave me alone, let me handle my divorce in peace, and maybe, I'll keep all this information to myself. But if you try to cause me any more trouble, if you try to paint me as the bad guy in this situation, or if you do anything else to piss me off, I'll make sure everyone in town knows exactly what kind of people you really are. Elise was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. Jack, please. I love you. I made a mistake, but we can fix this. No, Elise, we can't. Love doesn't do what you did. Love doesn't bring strangers into our home to mock the life we built together. Love doesn't lie for months while pretending everything is fine. I looked at each of them in turn. You all made your choices. Now you get to live with the consequences. Brent straightened his tie, trying to recover some dignity. This isn't over. Yes, it is. Because if it's not, I'll make sure your wife gets copies of every text message, every photo, and every credit card statement. I'll make sure your business partners know about your creative approach to office management. And I'll make sure everyone in town knows that the great Brent Pomeroy is just another cheating husband who couldn't keep his hands to himself. They left without another word, Elise looking back once with an expression I couldn't read. Regret, maybe. Or just anger at being caught. I stood in my living room, looking around at the house that had been our home for 8 years. Tomorrow, I'd start the divorce proceedings. I'd probably have to sell the house, split our assets, start over somewhere else. But tonight, for the first time in months, I felt like myself again. Not the pushover who fixed everyone else's problems while they laughed behind his back. Not the reliable guy who never made waves. Just Jack Mallory, marine engineer, who'd finally learned that sometimes the best way to fix something is to let it break completely first. My phone buzzed with a text from Hank. How'd it go? I texted back. Problem solved. Good. Drinks at Murphy's? Absolutely. I grabbed my keys and headed for the door. Behind me, the house felt different already. Not like a home anymore, but not like a prison either. Just a place I used to live, with people I used to know, in a life that was finally completely over. Time to start building a new one.